we're going to take the step now of writing out each of the roles or positions that we've had. The way that I'm doing this is we're going to start with the title of the company. I'm currently the founder of Cerebral. And then on the right-hand side, I have the dates that I'm working there, that I have worked there. So I started Cerebral back in 2022. And what we'll do is just go through and do this for every role or position that we've had. So some of the questions you may be asking are, what if I've had multiple positions at the same company? Well, if that's the case, have the title of the company with the years that you've worked there, and then just list out all of the roles that you've had at the company. So that's actually great to show the promotion path, to show that you're ambitious and motivated and that you're willing to work hard. And if you're like me, you may have multiple positions that overlap in their timeline. And for this step, it's really just getting everything out onto paper or the screen. And so just include everything that you've done, whether it's a part-time job, a full-time job, if it's a side gig that you've had, go ahead and include everything that you can or that you've done in your history on this first iteration. So now that we've gotten all of our companies and roles out on the screen and listed out, it's what we're going to do is create the story, because it's probably messy right now. If you look at mine, we have everything from my current or my most recent roles where I was founders or co-founders of these companies. And I also have a lot of roles where my experience is overlapping. So when I was at Solvi, for example, it was an AI startup that was acquired by Zoom back in 2022. And so with the dates, it's a bit messy. And especially if I go back a few years to when I was doing part-time contract work with Thinkful, developing curriculum while I had my day job. And so from a recruiter standpoint, it's really hard to see what my story is. What is my goal with my career? I'm not really telling that in my current layout, because there's some things like, oh, I was a solutions engineer, but then there was these curriculum developer experiences that were in between. There's the co-founder roles that are also different. So really the first step in creating a great resume is deciding which role you're going after. And you may say, well, Ben, I know I could be a software engineer, and I could also be a product manager, and I've done solution engineering work in the past. Or with whatever your industry is, there may be multiple roles that you're qualified for. And if that's the case, it would be best to create a couple of versions of your resume. You don't want to go into 3 or 4 different versions, but really hyper-focus on 2 roles that you know you're qualified for and that you would love doing. If you haven't identified or whittled down the list to 2 roles, either 1 or 2 roles, then there's some work that you need to do. And that might be going out to talk to career professionals to see what you really enjoy doing. Might be, sitting down, taking some time to journal and reflecting on what you enjoy the most in the work that you do. But deciding with 1 or 2 roles will help you hyper-focus with your resume. So in my case, let's say that I wanted to become a solutions engineering manager, or maybe I'm looking at a director position. So that would be 2 different roles, a manager or a director. And I may create 2 different versions of my resume. So let's focus on the director position, solutions engineering director, for a second. So with our resume, and the point that we're at right now of just listing out our job history with the titles and the dates that we've worked at these companies, is getting a clear story to show that, yes, I am qualified for a specific position or role. So in this case, if I'm looking to be a solutions engineering director, the story that I want to tell is, I have a background in development, and I entered the solutions engineering space, and this is what I love doing and what I'm seeking to do long-term for my career. So the first thing that we're going to do is just something simple with some cleanup with our story. And that's removing, or at least formatting, the dates in a way where it's very clear that you had one role, that you moved to the next role. You don't want the story to be muddled in any way. So in this case, I have my experience at Prentice as a co-founder overlapping with my time at Foster Moore as a configuration developer. So, a couple of items to note as we're diving into this. One, we're not going to lie, but what we are going to do is tell a story in a way that is coherent and makes sense. So, in this case, my last year when I was working at Prentice, I had put on the side to take a full time role to earn money. And the title that I had, configuration developer, it was very akin to a software engineer. And so I'm just going to change the title to software engineer because configuration developer doesn't really make sense. It doesn't tell the story of I was doing software engineering work. So even though that's the role, the title that Foster Moore had given me and my teammates, software engineer is a more appropriate title because it was the work that I was doing. And at Prentice, I think I'll do the same. Even though I was co-founder, I was also helping to write code, and I was also helping to sell. I was doing everything, right? You do that in a startup. And so I'm just going to change the dates here to January, and this was February 2018 to January of 2018. So that way it's a clear story. I worked at Prentice from 2015 to 2018. I was at Foster Moore from February of 2018 to September of 2018. And it was actually November. And then with Scouter, it's a very clear story that I'm telling of, I actually ended in 2019. And so it's good to go through and just check your dates and make sure that you have it all correct. And with Thinkful, this was a part-time contract. So what I'm going to do is just remove this and put it down at the bottom because I may want to include it as just extra experience in my resume, but we'll see if it gets to that point. And so now from a date perspective, January 21, and then it looks pretty clear until I get to Solvay where there's overlap again. So in this case, because Solvay was acquired by Zoom, I'm just going to say that I worked at Zoom, which is true. And I may include just a brief note when I build out my resume. But for now, we have the story, which is pretty clear that I was a software engineer, product manager, went to be a solutions engineer. And we'll just call it solutions engineer, and then moved into an enterprise solutions engineering role. And then at Automation Helpers, let's say that I was a director of solutions engineering, because even though I was a co-founder, that's the work that I was doing. And so it very clear where it's just one title. So I could put something like this, co-founder and director of solutions engineering. But again, that tells a difficult story. It's, well, you were a co-founder and you were a director of solutions engineering. Whereas if I just say I was the director of solutions engineering, it fits this story that shows that I went from being a solutions engineering manager to a director of solutions engineering. And I may even take off my experience at Cerebral since it's so recent. You can see that we're in April of 2025. Recently left Automation Helpers. I'm actually starting Cerebral, but for the case of this exercise, let's assume that I'm looking for a director of solutions engineering position. And so now that my story is clean, I'm ready to begin the next step, which is listing my accomplishments for each of my roles. So now that you have your story very clear, now we're able to move to the next step with clarity, because the accomplishments that I'll be listing, again, we're going to be getting everything out onto the screen or just on paper, so getting our thoughts into something concrete. And with this, it'll give me the right lens of how to tell the accomplishments that I've had in my previous positions.